Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, unable to move, with a terrifying presence looming over you. This is the bone-chilling reality of sleep paralysis, a realm where the line between dreams and reality blur, where your deepest fears come alive. In this abyss, we'll explore 3 horrifying tales, each a testament to the unseen terror that grips countless souls in their sleep. So steel your nerves, for we are about to delve into the darkest corners of the human mind. Our first tale takes us into the bedroom of a man tormented by a shadowy figure. Imagine, if you will, a man named Mark. Mark was your average guy, living a normal life until he was plagued by a recurring nightmare, a nightmare that didn't end when he woke up, but rather began. Mark's twisted tale revolves around a sinister figure he came to know as the Shadow Man. Mark's first encounter with the Shadow Man was on a regular night. He was caught between the realms of sleep and wakefulness, a state we know as sleep paralysis. Unable to move, he saw a figure standing in the corner of his room, a tall, dark, shapeless entity, the Shadow Man. It stood there, watching him, its presence filling the room with a dread Mark could not shake off. As the nights went by, the Shadow Man's presence became more pronounced. It no longer stood in the corner, but moved closer to Mark's bed, its featureless face inches from his. An overwhelming sense of terror enveloped him. He could feel the icy chill of its presence, the air around him growing heavy with a malevolent energy that left him gasping for breath. Mark's encounters with the Shadow Man didn't stop there. The figure began to interact with him, its long, shadowy fingers reaching out to touch him. Mark could feel a cold, spectral touch, a sensation that sent shivers down his spine. The Shadow Man was no longer a silent observer. It had become an active tormentor. Days turned into weeks, and Mark's fear of sleep grew. The Shadow Man was always there, waiting for him in the darkness. As he fell into the clutches of sleep, Mark could see those shadowy fingers stretching towards him, the figure's height seeming to grow with each passing night. The dread was palpable, the terror real. Mark sought help, confiding in friends, consulting doctors, and even visiting a priest. But no one could provide him with a solution. Sleep paralysis was a common phenomenon, they said, but what of the Shadow Man? There was no medical explanation for his spectral visitor. In desperation, Mark turned to sleep deprivation, hoping to escape the clutches of the Shadow Man. But lack of sleep only made things worse. The figure began to appear even when he was awake, its presence no longer confined to his paralyzed dreams. It was as if the Shadow Man had crossed over from the realm of nightmares into his waking world. The story of Mark and the Shadow Man is a chilling reminder of the terrifying experiences that sleep paralysis can bring. It's a horrifying ordeal that leaves one questioning the line between dreams and reality, the physical and the spectral. Straddling this line was Mark, a man tormented not just by his nightmares, but by the waking terror that followed him. Mark's tale is a testament to the power of the human mind, its ability to conjure up our deepest fears and project them into our reality. The Shadow Man, a creation of Mark's subconscious, took on a life of its own, becoming a very real threat. In the end, Mark found no respite. The Shadow Man was a constant presence, a tormentor that refused to leave. The figure had become a part of his life, an inescapable terror that haunted his nights and invaded his days, the Shadow Man, an unseen terror, forever haunts his dreams. As we delve deeper into the terrifying world of sleep paralysis, we come to realize that our own minds can often be our worst enemy. The tales of those who experience these horrifying encounters serve as a chilling reminder of the power of the subconscious mind and the terrors it can unleash. So, remember, the next time you find yourself caught between the realms of sleep and wakefulness, beware of the shadows that lurk in the darkness. For it is in these shadows that our deepest fears come to life and take on a form of their own. The Shadow Man is just one of the many horrors that await us in the world of sleep paralysis. A world that is as terrifying as it is fascinating. As we move on to our next tale, brace yourself for another chilling encounter. The world of sleep paralysis is full of horrifying entities, each with its own tale to tell. So, stay with us as we delve deeper into the darkness and uncover more terrifying tales of sleep paralysis. As we leave the Shadow Man behind, another terrifying entity awaits. We now cross the threshold into a chilling tale of spectral hauntings. A figure draped in white, an embodiment of your darkest nightmares. Are you ready to meet the woman in white? In our second tale, a chilling apparition haunts a young woman's nightmares. Her name was Emily, a woman in her mid-20s, living alone in a quaint apartment in the heart of the city. Emily was no stranger to sleep paralysis. She had been experiencing it since she was a teenager. But this was different. It was as if her dreams had crossed over into reality, and a spectral figure was the ghastly bridge between the two. Every night, as Emily drifted off to sleep, she'd feel a familiar dread creeping in. She knew what awaited her in the realm of sleep. The woman in white, a figure clad in a flowing white dress, her face obscured by a veil of the same ghostly hue. At first she was a distant figure, a mere speck in the vast landscape of Emily's dreams. But with each passing night, she grew closer, her presence more palpable, her aura more menacing. Emily would find herself unable to move, her body frozen in fear as the woman in white approached. The room would turn ice cold, and the air would grow heavy, as if the very oxygen was being sucked out. The woman in white would then lean over Emily, her face mere inches away, but Emily could never see past the veil, the face of her tormentor remaining a mystery. As the nights went on, the encounters with the woman in white became more terrifying. The figure would appear not just in Emily's dreams, but in her waking moments too. Emily would see her in the corner of her eye, a fleeting glimpse of a white dress disappearing around a corner, or a chilling whisper in her ear. One night, as Emily lay paralyzed with fear, the woman in white did something she had never done before. She reached out and touched Emily. Emily felt a cold chill run down her spine, the feeling of ice-cold fingers tracing a path down her cheek. It was a touch that was both ethereal and terrifyingly real. This was the turning point. Emily could no longer deny the reality of her situation. She was being haunted, not just in her dreams, but in her waking life too. She sought help from doctors, psychiatrists, even paranormal experts, but none could provide a solution. They said it was all in her head, a manifestation of her deep-seated fears and anxieties, but Emily knew better. She knew the woman in white was real. the climax of Emily's ordeal came on a stormy night. As the thunder roared outside, Emily found herself once again in the throes of sleep paralysis. The woman in white was there, as always, her presence more intimidating than ever. But this time she lifted her veil. Underneath was not a face, but a void, an endless abyss that seemed to consume everything. It was a sight so horrifying, so unimaginably terrifying, that Emily felt her sanity slipping away. She felt herself being drawn into the void, the darkness swallowing her whole. And then, just as suddenly, it was over. Emily woke up, her body drenched in sweat, her heart pounding in her chest. The woman in white was gone. But the memory of that faceless void, that infinite darkness, was seared into her mind. From that night on, Emily never saw the woman in white again, but the fear never left her. Every night, as she closed her eyes, she would brace herself for the encounter. But it never came. The woman in white had made her mark, leaving Emily with a chilling reminder of the terror she had faced. The woman in white, a chilling presence forever etched in her nightmares. From the woman in white, we now descend into a realm of pure terror, a place where whispers turn into screams and shadows take form. A world where the unthinkable becomes reality. Are you prepared to face the screaming entity? Our final tale revolves around an entity that's not just seen, but heard. In the dead silence of night, sleep paralysis can become a cacophony of terror. This is a story of an individual haunted by an unyielding presence, a creature that did not lurk in the shadows, but instead filled the air with an unbearable sound. This is the tale of the screaming entity. Our protagonist, whom we'll call Alex, had been no stranger to sleep paralysis. From a young age, he'd occasionally woken up, unable to move, trapped in his own body. But these episodes were silent, empty, until one night, when the silence was shattered. Alex woke up, his body frozen as usual, but this time, he wasn't alone. From the corner of the room, a low, soft whimper began. It was distant, almost like a far-off siren, or the wind whistling through a narrow crevice. It was an alien sound, not belonging to his otherwise quiet room. This was the first encounter with the screaming entity. In the following nights, the entity returned, its whispers growing louder, more desperate. It sounded like a wail, a cry for help that twisted Alex's stomach into knots. Each night the screams became more intense, more terrifying. The soft whimper had evolved into a deafening scream that filled every corner of the room, echoing off the walls and rattling in Alex's ears. The screaming entity was not just a sound, it was a presence, an unbearable weight that pressed down on Alex, amplifying his paralysis. The screams became his nightly torment, a symphony of terror that left him dreading the fall of night. As the weeks passed, the entity's screams became more articulate. They transformed from incoherent wails into words, into pleas. "Help me," it cried out, its voice a tortured rasp that bore into Alex's very soul. The screams were no longer just sounds. They were a desperate plea, a cry for salvation from an unseen tormentor. The entity's cries became a part of Alex, a haunting melody that played in the back of his mind, even during his waking hours. It was a constant reminder of the terror that awaited him each night. The screams were a chilling chorus that echoed in his dreams, a soundtrack to his nightmares. In his desperation, Alex sought help. He visited doctors, sleep specialists, even a psychic, in hopes of finding a solution. But none could offer him an answer. The screaming entity was his alone to bear. Each night he would brace himself for the onslaught of screams, his heart pounding in dread as he closed his eyes. One night, in the midst of the entity's deafening cries, Alex did something he had never done before. He responded. In his mind, he reached out to the entity, his thoughts a whisper against the onslaught of screams. "What do you want?" he asked, his mental voice trembling with fear. The entity's response was immediate. Screams halted, replaced by a silence so profound it was almost as terrifying. Then, in a voice as soft as a dying breeze, it replied, "Release." From that night on, the screaming entity's cries began to change. They were no longer pleas for help, but words of gratitude. The entity thanked Alex, its voice a gentle sigh against the quiet of the night. And then, one night, it was silent. The screams had ceased. The entity was gone. Alex was left with the silence. The nights were no longer filled with the entity's deafening cries. His sleep paralysis episodes were once again silent, empty, but the memory of the screaming entity lived on. The echoes of its screams lingered in the corners of his room, a haunting reminder of the terror he had faced. The screaming entity was a horrifying auditory terror, forever echoing in the depths of Alex's mind. It was a presence that had filled the silence of his sleep paralysis with its desperate pleas, its cries for help, and in the end, it was a reminder that even in the most terrifying of circumstances, understanding and compassion can bring about release. The screaming entity, a horrifying auditory terror, forever echoing in the depths of their mind. Thus, these tales of sleep paralysis are a chilling reminder of the terrors that can lurk in the shadows of our own minds. We've journeyed through the unsettling realms of the Shadow Man, the woman in white, and the screaming entity, delving into the very essence of fear itself. Sleep paralysis is truly a horrifying encounter, a nightmare you cannot escape. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never sleep through another nightmare again.